When I travel to America, there is only one lawyer I want, Mr. Karl Rominger.
This is a rebroadcast, or you just happen to jot it down. It'll ring right through to our office when we're in the office, and it'll ring right through to our voicemail system and get emailed directly to me when we're not in the office. So there you go. 1-800-734-2132 is the talk line number if you want to get on the air here and get your legal questions answered. Of course, if you're a first-time listener, you know what this show is all about. I answer your legal questions. So if you have a legal concern, custody issue, a child support issue, maybe there was an accident in the family and you're wondering about, no, that's not the child support issue, but I mean like a car accident in the family and you want to discuss what you should be doing or shouldn't be doing and what the insurance company really means, what's a good settlement value, all that good stuff, 1-800-734-2132. Lots of stuff going on in the news. You know, this week a federal judge declared the NSA's program of wire collections, basically, of metadata for telephones and things like that, to presumptively be unconstitutional, and basically indicated that he believes as the case goes forward that the government should be ready because he's going to declare it unconstitutional unless they come forward with some pretty amazing stuff. That's a big, big deal. It's actually made possible because when Snowden, who ran off to Russia, as you know, with all the NSA secrets, made this possible because he's made it public now what's really going on out there and how much data collection the government's really up to and what's really happening. And so it's kind of interesting because the lawyer who won the case or is winning the case is Larry Klayman. And if you followed the Clintons back in the day, you might remember Larry Klayman was a famous gadfly of the Clintons who caused them all kinds of trouble with lawsuits. Gail in Enola, how are you?
Good. How are you this morning?
Good. What's going on?
Can you just generally give me an idea of, I thought it was kind of a general rule that minors' records were always not carried over into adults for any charge. Can you kind of give me a general rule about that? That must not be true in some cases.
It is not true in many cases, and here's the general rule. If you're adjudicated of and minors aren't convicted, they're adjudicated. It's a fancy word. Think of it like a guilty finding. If that happens, and it's a misdemeanor, it will be expunged, I believe, at 21, if I remember. 18 or 21. I think it's 18. But if it's a felony, it stays there quite a bit longer. And I think at 30 or 35, you're eligible to have your juvenile felonies expunged. That said, and I'm just kind of speaking off the cuff here, that said, you also have other dispositions that are done routinely where nobody gets adjudicated and then it's dismissed, and those records are confidential. But if you're convicted of any kind of felony or serious crime as a juvenile, and it's done through the juvenile adjudication system, it will show up. And I always have clients say, well, I don't have a record, just stuff from when I was a juvenile. And I go, well, that's going to show up when the judge sentences you on this new stuff. And they always seem a little surprised because on TV they always talk about the juvenile stuff just, disappearing. That's not
so
Pennsylvania.
Even if a minor's convicted of first-degree murder and serves his time...
Oh, that's different. That's different.
Okay.
Because if he's convicted of, say, first-degree murder, he probably wasn't tried as a juvenile, he's tried as an adult, and then it's a real crime.
There's that adjudicated word, okay.
Right. And I don't think... What do I say? I don't know if too many people have been adjudicated guilty of first-degree murder.
Right.
Basically, if you commit a very serious crime, the district attorney has the option of direct filing and saying that you are a criminal, and then the defense attorney files with the judge what's called a decertification petition to have it sent back to juvenile court. So,
okay.
But as a general rule, there's no free pass for being a juvenile. In fact, I don't recommend it. The other thing that I think a lot of these kids forget about when they get in juvenile trouble is even if your record's eventually going to go away, it doesn't mean you don't end up with a probation officer at the school. It doesn't mean you don't end up with reporting angry parents and restitution bills.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything written in, or have you ever seen a judge in Pennsylvania for a misdemeanor or a smaller crime? Does he have any legal power to just write it off? Isn't what I mean, but just ignore it. If the district attorney doesn't speak, can he just say, "We're going to just write this off"?
Yeah, I can think of a kid we had up in the hinterlands, maybe like Millersburg University or Millersville or somewhere like that, and he went to a frat party and stole some beers, and he took about 8 beers and stuffed them down his jeans, right down his pants and into his leg. And when the police saw him, he was walking funny because he had all these cans in his leg, And the judge had him write 1,000 times that cold beverages can give you frostbite.
That was the sentence. Wow.
And, it was kind of humorous, but to actually sit and write something out 1,000 times is a little bit more painstaking. But the idea was the judge basically didn't want the kid to be in trouble because he was just doing what, college students do. And he did steal the beers from the frat house, which wasn't good, but then he'd have a theft record. Because he wasn't just a kid, he was about 19. I guess his plan was to take him back to the dorms for his buddies or something. So, yeah, judges have some discretion to do that. A district attorney may not be happy about it, and in more serious matters, if a judge exercises their discretion too randomly, they might be subject to discipline eventually.
Very interesting. All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. 1-800-734-2132 if you want to get in on the conversation. I'll also be happy to talk about Phil Robertson and the Duck Dynasty issues if you want to touch base on those. I have a few thoughts. Some of you may know what I'm thinking. Some of you probably follow my Facebook and you'll know. Also, while I've got you, I want to remind you to stop in at Harrisburg Beer and Cigar, 3842 Union Deposit, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. That's Harrisburg Beer and Cigar over on Union Deposit right near the Outback. Amazing selection of cigars. And tomorrow, by the way, at 1 p.m. at the Park Inn Radisson on the Carlisle Pike in Mechanicsburg is RJ's Awesome Auction. That's Sunday, December 22nd at 1 p.m. at the Park Inn Radisson on the Carlisle Pike in Mechanicsburg. RJ's Awesome Auction. If you need to liquidate, see, I said litigate because I just want to litigate. If you need to liquidate an estate or business, I recommend you call RJ Gold Auctions. You can buy outright or sell your items at auction. RJ can be reached at 645-0061, PA licensed auctioneer AU 005798. Again, that's going to be at the Radisson over in Camp Hill auction tomorrow at 1 o'clock. I may stop in over there. Should be pretty interesting. I hear he always has good stuff. So the Duck Dynasty thing is interesting to touch base. And by the way, if you want to jump in on these conversations or you have a legal question that needs answered, it's 1-800-734-2132. You can also go to my Facebook page. It's Karl with a K, Rominger, Rominger. We do take a lot of questions on there as well. We have some pretty heated discussions going on because the Duck Dynasty thing seems to rub different people different ways. The interesting thing to me is the continuing, how would I call it, point that people are making that Phil's free speech rights are being violated. It's a violation of his free speech. Free speech and your rights under the Constitution, things like that, are restraints on government. So if the government was telling him he couldn't come on the air, or the government was saying you can't say those things and go on the air, that would be a restraint on speech, and the First Amendment puts the brakes on that. Now, of course, as you know, the federal government does control what I can say here on the air. I can't say certain words. I can't tell you what words they are on the air because that's been tried before, and that gets people in trouble as well. I think George Carlin also had a great routine on that. But the point is, there is some restraint allowed, but it has to pass muster with the First Amendment. But that's when the government does it. If WIOO says, hey, Rominger, we don't want you on the air anymore because we don't like what you put on your Facebook page, that's not a violation of my free speech rights. It has nothing to do with my free speech rights because WIOO is a private entity, and we're in contract together. Now, there is a little overlay on that because there's some case law out there that's been developed over the years where some kids wanted to solicit, I think, for union membership or something quasi-religious or some such thing, and they went to a private town, and it was a completely private town, and they were charged with trespassing. And the theory was that they were trespassing on the private town, and it was enforced against them by the police, this statute of trespassing. And the Supreme Court of the United States said, no, that is not permissible to curtail their speech rights, even though they're on completely private property, because it's a town and it takes on the characteristic of a common or public place. There's some First Amendment protections against governmental enforcement of this do not trespass statute against these people. That's also expanded in another case called Pruneyard out of California, which involves a shopping mall where the California Supreme Court said that under the California Constitution that the shopping mall has become like the public venue, and you can't just keep people out of there and you have to let them have free discourse. It's the new town square. I always thought that was kind of interesting. 1-800-734-2132. That's the talk line number if you want to jump here on the air. 1-800-734-2132. For those of you who are long-time listeners, we've been in this time slot for a long time, but we've only been live for about the last month. So if you didn't get the word yet, you can actually get on board here and get your questions answered, because I know people would call in here routinely and not know that we were in the can, so to speak, but we are live these days. So it's 1-800-734-2132. The other thing with the Duck Dynasty, how does this play out? If the family backs out and says, we don't want to have anything to do with A&E anymore, there's going to be all kinds of contracts that have been signed. There's going to be quite a relationship built up in that contract about who has to do what with who has the right to renew, and options. There's going to be language in there, which is quite frequently in athletes' contracts and entertainers' contracts, about public behavior and actions requiring one not to be bringing ill light upon your employer, for instance. And that's an interesting question. Was that what happened in this case? Do you think Phil really reflected poorly on A&E and they really needed to run out there and do what they did? Was this overreaction and hyperbole based on a minority view? Or where do we really sit? And I think it's interesting because this has really brought out everybody on all different stripes on both sides of the equation. And I'm just not sure how they're going to resolve all the issues that are surrounding it if, in fact, the family bolts and decides not to do the show any longer. How you disentangle those relationships. I don't think they're free to just go start Duck Dynasty on any other network. So that could be pretty interesting to see what happens. Now, you were telling me there's no taxi service anymore. Is that you think that's true?
I'm sorry.
You tell me you don't think there's a taxi service anymore?
No, I know for a fact there's not a taxi service right now.
Yeah, in Carlisle, and that's not a good thing because it's the holiday time. So I got to remind people. We were talking about this earlier. What do you do if you find out you've drank a few too many? This comes up in my office all the time. People come in for DUIs and things like that, and you want to say to them, "Well, you should have taken a cab, dummy." But if there's no cab or there's nowhere to go, I don't know what people are going to do.
I can tell you this. I worked at Trindle last night, a DJ, and no less than 8 people needed cabs. Okay? And on my way back through this morning, there were 11 cars in their parking lot, and usually there might be 1 or 2. So at least people didn't drive.
Right.
Okay, that's the good part. The bad part is, according to my buddy who's a taxi driver, no less than 3 dozen people during the day, have to be at work at 6 a.m.,
right,
rely on that.
Yeah, so there's nothing for people to get to work during the day.
I rely on it for Saturday morning.
Yeah, and so I just want to make sure I remind people because Christmas and New Year's, people like to drink a little more than they sometimes do. And of course, my joke is there's always the guy or gal who doesn't drink all year long, and they drink 1 or 2 glasses of wine, and they're ready to crash their car, and they shouldn't be driving either. Long story short, you want to get the cab. Of course, we don't have one now in town, but that's okay. In the greater area there is, and it's important to watch out and use designated drivers. And I point all this out because while I would love to have your business, I'd rather not have your DUI business, because it wrecks a lot of things, wrecks a lot of jobs. It's actually interesting because when people come to me and they start talking about what can I do for my DUI, what's possible? Well, the answer is a lot is possible. We negotiate quite a few of them. We've won them at trial. We've suppressed evidence. We've stopped stops from going forward. There's some flexibility for negotiation. A lot of people can get ARDs. But most people could care less about the jail time. They're like, and I don't mean it like literally care less, but I hear this all the time. Could I do 30 days instead of 90 days and keep my driver's license? No. Well, could I do 6 months? Could I do 6 months in jail but keep my driver's license rather than 90 days in jail? And people would choose to keep their driver's license and stay in jail and go to work on a work release program over spending some time in jail or less time in jail and losing their driver's license because it's such a financial hardship in this day and age. Talk line number, by the way, is 1-800-734-2132 if you want to jump in here and discuss what's going on or give us a little thought about what you think of the Duck Dynasty. I really want to know what people think about that out there. All right, we're going to go to break, and when we come back from commercial, we'll talk a little bit more.
For all of your plumbing, heating, air conditioning repairs, and preventative maintenance, call Tyke Delp of Delp HVAC of Carlisle. Delp HVAC fixes leaks, installs new systems, and they don't charge an arm and a leg. Local to Carlisle for decades, Delp HVAC has the knowledge to keep your systems running soundly for years to come. Or for new systems, call the experienced guys at Delp HVAC, 713-6339. 713-6339 for professional installation.
PA 083722.
Delp HVAC of Carlisle.
Cheers.
What a week. We are so over this job.
I know. That's why I got a new one.
You what? When?
I start Monday.
What?
Crazy, right? So much to get done first, like my dry cleaning.
Pick up?
Great. Medium starch?
Sure.
Thanks.
How did you?
I just looked up dry cleaners at DexKnows.com, which reminds me, should definitely get my hair done too.
Who's that?
This is Ryan, a stylist I just found with Dex Mobile.
Hi there.
That's some ass.
I know, right? When you need something here and you need it now, you gotta Dex it.
Gotta. Hey, can I try that?
Sure.
Because I could really go for a big masseuse.
You mean massage?
Whatever.
Need something local and need it now? Find it with Dex in the book at DexKnows.com or on your mobile phone. You'll get the sharpest local info, reviews, and advice fast. Dex, results for the here and now.
If you need notary service or tags, title, or registration, then call Flora Vogt Notary Public. She's been a notary public in Pennsylvania for 31 years, and she's the least expensive notary in town. But the best part is, Flora Vogt will come to you. You heard right. If you're unable to travel, she'll come to you. Flora is also licensed with PennDOT, so if it's license plates, tag transfers, or instant registration renewals, call Flora Vogt at 249-2180.
Hi, this is Flora Vogt. I've been a notary public in Pennsylvania for 31 years. I have mobile notary services, so if you're bedridden or without transportation, I can come to you. I can also issue license plates, transfer tags, and do instant registration renewals. I offer these services for the least expensive fees in the area. Remember, if you need me to come to you, I can. Call 249-2180. That's 249-2180.
Call Flora Vogt Notary Public at 249-2180. Remember, she'll come to you. That's 249-2180.
Welcome back. Karl Rominger here. Talk line number is 1-800-734-2132. Get your legal questions answered here on the air. If you're a person with something you want to get answered, it's right here. You just call in 800-734-2132. And, of course, I'm reminding you that's our one-stop number. So even if you're listening to this not live and you feel the desire to call in, the message will get to me. And if it's during the work week or during the office hours, you'll ring right through with the staff. So 1-800-734-2132 to get your questions answered here on the air. Canada just struck down their anti-prostitution laws. And it's kind of interesting. The Canadian Supreme Court came out, whatever the equivalent is there, and said that the laws were not proper or constitutional under Canadian law. Basically, and it's interesting, prostitution is legal in Canada, but it's illegal to solicit, it's illegal to pay, it's illegal, all the aspects of it. It's illegal to have a brothel, all that sort of thing. And the Canadian court reasoned, kind of interestingly, that it makes it a dangerous situation because if people are going to engage in that and it's legal to engage in it, then the government's making it so that they have to do it in a way that's more dangerous for them. And there's sort of some kind of recognition that may be something that's going to go on. I just thought it was interesting that Canada is decriminalizing many aspects of prostitution at the same time that we're flapping around over Duck Dynasty on this side of the parallel. Who we got? Dave, you're on. Dave?
Jay.
No, it's not Dave, Karl.
Hey, Jay.
How you doing? This isn't going to make for very exciting radio because with Duck Dynasty, I kind of, you know that I'm probably on the more, I'd say liberal side, but I perfectly understand what you're saying about this. I don't quite understand. I guess I do understand a lot of the folks that say this is an abridgment of the freedom of speech.
Right.
But what are some of the reasoning that you're getting, or is it all just kind of? I haven't been reading your posts or the posts, but
okay, there's an undercurrent out there that if you're a Christian, you get punched and other people get a free pass. And I always find it interesting. I think almost everybody thinks the other side's getting a free pass. But people are taking umbrage at the fact that he stated what is basically his religious belief, and which he believes to be a biblical belief, and came out and said these things. And so they're taking it as an affront to their religion, and they're seeing it as a challenge, but they're not mincing out who's doing it because it's A&E, it's not the government. There's just a lot of anger over it. And, of course, a lot of people are saying, we're going to boycott A&E, which all makes sense to me, which is fine. It's just that it's not a First Amendment issue, and I just think this gets confused a lot because people think that discrimination, for instance, is illegal. And I always have to explain, no, discrimination is legal. In fact, you discriminate every day. You decide, what color scarf to put on when you go out in the morning. You decide what you're going to eat for breakfast. You make choices. Right. We just aren't allowed to make certain choices. But I do see the flip side, and I understand that some people will be terribly offended by what he said. But on the other hand, I guess you got to go where the money is. And so I'll be curious to see how A&E worms out of this one. Are they going to bring him back? And, probably, I actually put a theory out there, which a lot of people seem to think might be true. I kind of floated on Facebook, and a lot of people seem to think it might be true, that this is something he said to the magazine that no one expected him to say, but then once it dusted up, this has turned into a big, more people are talking about Duck Dynasty today than ever before. And if they can resolve this and play it right, then A&E will come out serving their audience. Duck Dynasty will come out serving their audience, which is each other's audience at the end of the day. So, I don't know. I just think it's a very interesting flashpoint right now.
I've also heard theories that it wasn't exactly. Well, first of all, it shouldn't be. One would think it wouldn't be a surprise. If I listen to conservative pundits on the radio, and I was listening, I just for a few minutes to one of the local ones, and that they're going to just take that side and make it a flashpoint, and everything now is a flashpoint. Well, so nobody should be that surprised one way or the other.
I think my original post on Facebook is, Phil said something crazy. Are we shocked? Are we shocked that that he said something shocking? I mean, in other words, you put a bunch of guys who look like ZZ Top on a made-for-TV reality show, which is actually scripted. It's not 100% real and organic like I think half of America thinks. And they're characters, and one of them's going to say something crazy, and they're a little rednecky, and they're a little Southern, and they're a little religious, and it's probably in conformity with what you expect. So I don't understand what the big shock and awe is. On the other hand, we don't want to give platforms to hate. But I was thinking it would be interesting, just take what Phil said and, mash it around a little bit. Instead of saying it about sexuality, have him say it about racial issues or something else.
Well, there was something I think somebody brought up on the internet or the Facebook where he had made statements. I think he had made statements about African Americans and how slaves used to be happy.
Yeah, and
something to that effect.
I don't know, but I can say in my mind, I always say if you move the facts a little bit, you get a better understanding of what's really going on. And if he had said those things in a racial context, everybody would condemn it, right? Except for maybe David Duke and the guys down there in Louisiana.
Well, I've always had a problem, and look, I'm Jewish, but I've always had a problem with hate crimes because I figure you have the right to hate me because I'm Jewish, as long as you don't take any action.
Yeah, hate crimes
action or anything.
Hate crimes are difficult because it's an enhancement based on the fact that you carried it out because of somebody's race or religion, and it's a tough one to tease out. Not every broken window on a synagogue was caused by a skinhead neo-Nazi. It might be as simple as a kid just throwing pebbles at windows. So
I don't think it should be classified as a separate, like if you murder someone, and I think there was a case in Kutztown, I think a few years back, but you murder them. I mean, that murder should be sufficient enough.
Sufficient enough. Well, it's interesting, though, so I'll give you an example. If you commit an act of vandalism, say in New Jersey, and it's racially motivated or religiously motivated, then the range of sentences might go, say, from a 3-year sentence on the max to like a 10-year sentence on the max. The idea being that there's something worse about you because you singled somebody out. But actually, we rarely see those things prosecuted because, you know, it's tough enough to prove what somebody's intent is when it comes to stealing or breaking something, unless they literally plant a cross in somebody's yard and burn it. Getting to the bottom of why they slash somebody's tires, you know, it is very difficult.
It's like proving, I guess, conspiracy. I just thought if you can't prove. I was on a jury trial once, and the guy was up for first-degree murder and also conspiracy to commit murder. They found him innocent, or at least not guilty, of the murder charge, and then somebody wanted to vote that he was guilty of conspiracy, and I never quite understood that, logic. Until the guy told me, the member of the jury told me he was doing that so he could get a hotel room for the night.
Well, you know, we have, in Pennsylvania, we're one of the states that does not merge conspiracies with the act itself. So if you and I drive down to Harrisburg to deliver some drugs to somebody, and you know we have an agreement, that's a conspiracy, and that's one crime in Pennsylvania. The actual deliveries is separate. In most states, the conspiracy merges with the underlying crime. But it's interesting.
Okay. Well, you got to get Mike from Lebanon to tune in here. I guess he's over the doctor's show or something. He'll have an opinion, I'm sure.
Yeah, I would love to hear from him. I'm sure he's got, my Goomba, let me tell you what's going on with the Duck Dynasty.
Well, we'll see. Okay.
All right, thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Karl. Bye.
All right, 1-800-734-2132. 1-800-734-2132. Get your question answered on the air here. You know, guys, it's whatever you want to talk about, so there's no really right or wrong legal question. A lot of times people are looking like the lady was earlier just for a general overview to try to understand something. Sometimes people call us to tell us stories about what happened to them at the magistrate's office, you know. I do have a follow-up. I had one guy, remember, he called and had a issue with a magistrate who made a terrible ruling, and he ended up filing the appeal, and it's percolating now because I guess he took my advice. But it was very difficult for him to believe that the judge made such an arbitrarily wrong decision. And after working in the legal system as long as I have, you can count on the lawyers to be kooks, you can count on the judge to get it wrong, and you can count on the witnesses to lie, and the whole thing goes askew. And so my general advice is if you can solve your problem without going to the legal system and without going in front of a judge to resolve it, you're probably better off because sometimes things can be very random and the results can be very disquieting versus what you would expect. And it is interesting because guys a lot of times go in front of the judge and they think, I'm just going to tell him my story and he'll understand and he'll be cool and he'll let me go because he'll understand exactly what happened. And then they march out and they end up calling me after they've botched up the first half of the case because they discover that you can't just walk into court and smile and say a few words and everything's over. You know, if it was simple as that, then everybody would simply do it. Or just to walk in. My favorite one is people are like, well, I didn't do it. I'm like, okay, well, you didn't do it, but who's going to believe you? You're the guy accused of doing it. Or, you know, you're the one who's being accused of not paying their bill in a civil suit, and you're saying you did. Let's get some proof. Let's get some evidence. Let's do some things. You can't just go in there and speak your mind. But some people do think that's going to work. I do find that interesting. All right, I want to remind you, RJ Gold's got a big auction tomorrow, 1 p.m. at the Park Radisson on the Carlisle Pike in Mechanicsburg, PA. Licensed auctioneer AU005798. When you go to RJ's awesome auction tomorrow at the Park in Radisson, tell him Karl sent you. That way he'll know we really exist here. And yeah, exactly. No, we're real, I swear. And I'm going to go to ads now.
For a gift that expresses personal feelings or fabulous festive decorations, make the Whimsical Poppy your first stop. See their delightful choice of locally made fresh wreaths and poinsettias. The Whimsical Poppy has a nice variety of fresh seasonal greens, festive fresh centerpieces for your holiday dinners, and lots of delightful stocking stuffers. Don't forget to honor departed loved ones with a beautiful cemetery tribute from the Whimsical Poppy, Mount Holly's premier florist. The Whimsical Poppy takes pride in their fresh, artistically arranged bouquets, gift baskets, and live potted plants. They offer local delivery in the Carlisle, Mount Holly, and Gardners area. And they're your FTD florists, so they can send flowers nationwide or around the world to loved ones far away. Call 486-5202. There's always something unique at the Whimsical Poppy. Open special holiday hours Sunday, December 22nd, 10 to 2, Christmas Eve 9 to 3, and closed Christmas Day and December 26th. They're at 417 North Baltimore Avenue, Mount Holly Springs. The Whimsical Poppy is the home of gifts they'll cherish forever.
2014 will be a historic season at Oriole Park at Camden Yards, and the time to get ready is now. Celebrate the 60th anniversary season of your birds by placing a deposit on a 2014 Orioles partial season plan. 13-game partial season plans bring fans huge savings over the cost of single-game tickets, plus more exclusive VIP perks like priority access to the postseason, Major League Baseball's most flexible ticket exchange policy, invitations to members-only events, even access to the toughest ticket in town, Orioles opening day. With a full list of orange carpet benefits, partial season plans are the perfect way to join the team and celebrate 60 years of Orioles baseball. Round out your holiday shopping with some Orioles gift certificates or a membership for your kids in the Junior Orioles Dugout Club. This holiday season celebrates 60 years of Orioles magic. Call 888-848-BIRD or visit Orioles.com.
Hi, this is Dave Crown, the new...
Sure fresh, sure friendly, doing our best to give you more. We're your neighborhood Surefine stores.
A Nell's Surefine gift card makes a great Christmas gift. They're available in any of your locally owned Nell's Surefine supermarkets in Enola, Hanover, East Berlin, New Oxford, and on the Walnut Bottom Road, Carlisle. Get great gold card savings this week on Sanderson Farms boneless and skinless chicken breast or thighs, only $1.88 a pound. Whole boneless New York strips, $4.99 a pound, and Surefine American cheese, $3.99 a pound. BOGO specials include Hillside kielbasa or smoked sausage, Colgate toothpaste, Arnold's Country Breads, Lay's, Hers, and Utz potato chips, and Clear Brand shampoos. And Thomas's English muffins are buy one, get two free. See their circular for more great gold card savings and super coupons on Turkey Hill ice cream, Kunstler bacon, Maxwell House coffee, and Idaho potatoes. Happy holidays and thank you for shopping Nell's.
Doing our best to give you more. We're your neighborhood Surefine stores.
Hey, welcome back. Karl Rominger here. 1-800-734-2132. Get your questions answered here on the air. It's 1-800-734-2132. When you call in, we will answer the question. It's your chance to get free legal advice. Of course, I always warn people, if you're listening to someone else's question getting answered, it may be a little different for you than it is for them. I don't have to warn clients about that. We sit in the back of the courtroom, and they look at me like, why is that guy going to jail for 20 days, and I have to go to jail for 30 days? It sounds like he has the same charges. And so they're like, yeah, well, he might have the same record, or he's got a better problem with his case. Quite often that's how you get a good plea deal is you have a problem with the case, and the district attorney or the other litigant on the other side, say in a custody case, goes, yeah, there's a problem here. I might not win everything I want. I might not be able to litigate it to the nth degree. I did have an interesting moment in court this past week. I had somebody testifying that there was something that never happened and didn't exist. And lo and behold, my client elbows me and says, hey, I have video of that. And I say, well, where's your video? And, of course, in the old days, you can't stop court and go get the video. They're like, on my iPhone. Well, where's your iPhone? In my pocket. Oh. Well, during the recess, we went out and queued up the video, and sure enough, it showed exactly what the opposing side testified never happened and never existed. And it was a factual thing, and it wasn't a make or break the entire case. But after we made that an issue, it became very clear the judge was much less impressed with this witness's veracity, because either they were not very careful about what they were testifying to, or they were sort of making it up as they went along. And I think that was what that illustrated. But I like the fact that in real time in a courtroom these days, you have access to video, and the way we pump stuff up to websites and Facebook and Dropbox and things like that now, all those archives will be available someday so that you can do things on the fly. It's an interesting thing, because you don't always know what's going to become relevant in a courtroom. And you don't always know what the other side's going to say. I mean, we didn't have any reason to believe this guy was going to say what he said. So you kind of get surprised by it and quick on your feet. So I just thought that was interesting use of technology that hasn't happened to me before. I mean, we've brought videos to court before, but never discovered one on somebody's iPhone that was relevant in the midst of the proceedings. And again, that's just the way things are changing now. I'm not sure the judge knew what an iPhone was, but that's that. And of course, you know how they like cell phones in courtrooms. Like you brought in the most horrible thing in the world, so we had to do a little preamble about how it wasn't here to make calls, Judge. It's just here to show a video. 1-800-734-2132. If you have a legal issue, legal question, if you guys are listening to the show for the first time, so you understand, we answer them here on the air and we explain things to you to help you understand whether you should get a lawyer, what might work for you, whether your child support's too high, whether your custody deal is a bad deal, what do you want to do to make an insurance company pay you, all those things. 1-800-734-2132. I'm happy to discuss them with you. If you're a longtime listener of the show, which I know there's a lot of people in this station in these hours that are, you might not realize it yet, but we are actually live. So we're live right now on the air, not just the
I'll prove it. We're live.
We're live. That's right.
How's that?
Well, it's funny because we trained people for 2 years to not call in because they didn't realize they all thought it was live. They'd call in. You have to explain it wasn't live, and we got to get the word out there. In fact, I just talked to somebody this week, and they're like, "Oh, you guys are live now?" I'm like, "Yes, we're live now."
I'm going to prove it to you again. It's 8:41 Saturday morning, and it's 43 degrees. That's live.
I always like when you wake up in the morning and it's 15 degrees warmer than when you went to bed. I thought it was, I guess we're on a little warming trend here. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. I want to go back to this thing in Canada for a minute. I just find it very interesting that the Canadians are striking down prostitution laws. And I don't think the two things are related. I'm going to end up in a Phil Robertson moment here if I say this, but a Utah judge also just struck down the ban on same-sex marriage in Utah, saying that there is no harm to marriage which occurs from gay marriage, and as a result struck those laws down. So Utah is becoming the next state to allow gay marriage. I don't know where Pennsylvania is going to fit on that spectrum. We're the last northeastern state. If you have some thoughts on that, I'd be curious. 1-800-734-2132. And as you may know, we do have a lawsuit percolating through right now. Governor Corbett's engaged in a lawsuit with the ACLU, and we also have the lawsuit that the governor has against the Montgomery County clerk who's been issuing or was issuing marriage licenses, who's taken his appeal to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. I'll be curious to see what they do. And also the Pennsylvania Supreme Court found certain portions of Megan's Law unconstitutional this week, too, which just proves that courts sometimes can do unpopular things because obviously most people really think Megan's Law is a great thing and are very upset whenever anybody challenges it, and rightly so, and I understand that. But the court found, I believe, that the law wasn't appropriately passed or amended, and that had to do with the amendments they made for what's called SORNA, which is this new federal system. There is a dangerous trend out there right now, and that is to over-criminalize things. And there are a lot of crimes that are heinous, but in the federal system when it comes to, for instance, pornography, ban child pornography, things like that, they've now taken the sentencing to the point where it's almost impossible to get charged and not go to jail for a very, very long period of time. And as a result, there's very little discretion. And then at the same time, they've expanded and forced the states to expand the definition of what a predator is and who should be on what lists. And now you can end up on Megan's Law for crimes that no one ever would have thought you could have ended up on there for. So, and I'll give you an example. If a 19-year-old boy dates a 15-year-old girl, that's all bully fine. But if they engage in various acts, most of which we would consider to be relatively harmless vis-a-vis ones that could cause conception, the 19-year-old could end up on Megan's Law. I mean, somebody says, I don't have any sympathy for him. Well, or the 18-year-old and the 14-year-old. And listen, the reality is do we really want to put people on a list for life where they can't get a job, they can't get work, they're stigmatized for something that they did while they were a young teenager with another slightly younger teenager? That's just me editorializing here for a minute, but that's the trend. And it's the same trend everywhere with government. There's always a boogeyman we have to worry about. So the NSA says we need to snoop all your records and do all these things because, well, why? Because terrorism, of course. Al-Qaeda is after you. That's why they were stealing economic secrets from corporations and going after the financial data of UNICEF and places like that. And it's very interesting they were spying on companies. If you look at their response, if you parse out what they said they don't do it for the purpose of helping American companies get a technological advantage. Well, saying you don't do something for the purpose of versus saying that you sometimes do it, dual use. Okay, we spy on these people and we gather this information, and we don't do it to provide benefit to our own corporations or our own people. At least that's not our purpose. But, of course, if we come across it, we might share it. I have a feeling we're going to see more of that coming out, that the United States is going to be guilty of industrial espionage, and we're going to find out who's really benefiting. And then maybe we'll understand better why some of these big tech companies work so gladly with the NSA, because I have a feeling the one hand rubs the other hand. I'll be very curious to see how that comes out. They're now saying, by the way, they're up to 1.5 million documents they believe Snowden has. So why is it taking so darn long for them to all leak? Well, part of the problem is practically, if you ever tried to read 1.5 million pages, you're probably still working on it. And so it's going to take a team of people a long period of time to find out all the goodies that are in there. I personally don't think Snowden is a terrible guy. I think he brought to light what was going on and made lawsuits like Larry Klayman's, where the NSA's programs were found unconstitutional, possible, because up until then they simply denied they exist and courts just followed along. Our right of judicial review has been greatly circumscribed over the years, and this was just another example of where it was going on. So I think Snowden really, really did something for freedom. He was called a traitor, I believe, or something along those lines by somebody in the Obama administration recently. And, it's pot calling the kettle, But on the other hand, what I also thought interesting about it was that's what King George said about James Madison and Benjamin Franklin and, John Adams and Sam Adams and, Farley Dickinson, all those guys, some of them, including Madison, who later became president, was on the King George's list of people who were to be put to death when the insurrection was quelled. So keep in mind that one man's traitor is another man's patriot. And in that respect, I think Snowden's more patriot than traitor. But how he'll be remembered and whether he'll be vilified or adulated in the future will have to do with whether or not the NSA gets beaten back and whether people take a serious interest in it or not. It's hard to pay attention to everything that's going on all the time with these things. 1-800-734-2132. We'll take another commercial and see you in a minute.
Hi, this is Ed Belden for your Good Neighbor Pharmacies, Big Spring, Holly, and Quality Care. Did you know that a recent survey of Consumer Report readers, 94% were highly satisfied with independent pharmacies? They also praised the pharmacists for accessibility and personal service. If you can't come to us, utilize our free prescription delivery. We have drive-up window service at Quality Care in Big Spring for your convenience. Quality Care is your local compounding pharmacy for you and your pets. Be sure to check with us before you mail away your prescriptions. You can order prescription refills 24 hours a day by phone or online. We are Holly Pharmacy in Mount Holly Springs, Quality Care Pharmacy in Carlisle, and Big Spring Pharmacy in Newville. Remember, you are our most important customer.
We truly care for you and your family. We believe in our community. We're Good Neighbor Pharmacy.
Can't find your NFL team on TV on Sunday? Well, find it at the Trindle Inn, Fairfield Street and Trindle Road, Carlisle. A bunch of big screen TVs, the best wings in Carlisle, and terrific beer specials make the Trindle Inn your place to be for the Sunday 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock games. Bring the gang in for a great time with great service and your team on the big screen. If your team plays Sunday, it plays at the Trindle Inn, just off the High Street exit of I-81 at Trindle Road and Fairfield Streets, Carlisle. Listen for the Trindle Kid football predictions, Saturday mornings at 11:30 on Country Gold.
Hey, welcome back. Karl Rominger here, 1-800-734-2132. I'm chuckling because Nevada Supreme Court sends Onion the dog case back to lower court. This is out of Carson City. Onion the dog has won a reprieve from the Nevada Supreme Court just in time for Christmas. The court, in a 4-3 decision, has returned the case involving the dog that killed a 1-year-old for an evidentiary hearing to determine ownership of the animal. Gee, that's great. The dog killed a kid, and then they were going to euthanize it, but a group of animal rightsists from New York are trying to save him and move him to a Colorado sanctuary. And I'm terrible that dog killed a kid, but it just never ceases to amaze me that there will be people who will spend all this time and energy on getting this dog to a rescue while human beings sit in squalor and filth and have all kinds of problems. And kids could use a little more help. It sort of reminded, like with Hurricane Katrina, when they said, well, next time we're going to build sufficient ways, and we're going to allow for the evacuation of dogs and cats and companion animals, and we're going to do all this and that. And I was like, well, didn't you guys lose some people? Shouldn't you, before you design a system to get all the companion animals out and get all that, fine-tuned, shouldn't we make sure that all the human beings get out safely? Wouldn't that be the priority? But I know somebody out there right now is hating on me because you're going, but I love my dog, and my dog is like a person, and it loves me too. And it's anthropomorphized in my eyes into a little boy or a little baby, and I just love my, But that's how we get an absurd result where a court is actually stopping a dog from being executed, even though the dog killed a child. Obviously the dog isn't safe, and obviously somebody may argue, well, maybe that was the child's fault or the parents didn't properly supervise. Listen, once a dog kills a kid, I don't think that dog deserves to be around. If it was a person, everybody would agree. But because it's a dog, it seems to be dividing people. I don't know what that tells us about ourselves. We seem to be more fascinated with the rights of other species than we are of ourselves. And, I am a speciesist, and I do eat meat and wear leather, and I'm intellectually consistent in that regard. I find a lot of people, I used to date a girl who, claimed to be a vegetarian. She'd eat the bacon off your plate, though, and she wore leather, and her cars were all appointed with leather, and she had a Louis Vuitton leather purse, and she bought leather shoes all the time and leather belts. And
she liked tilapia.
And fur, and she had a fur coat or three. But, she was an animal. In fact, I think she styles herself on her Twitter page as a animal rights activist, which just makes me laugh. But, that's more power to her. It's just normal inconsistency that we see in those areas. 1-800-734-2132 is the talk line number if you want to get on the air here and get your legal question answered. Obviously, we're on every Saturday from 8 to 9. And, of course, if you're listening to this on the replay, which you're not right now, of course, later that might not be true if you're listening to it. That number will work to ring through to our office as well, or if we're on the radio at that point, it'll ring right through to the radio as well. So you can call at any time. It's like a one-stop number. Of course, you guys go to romingerlaw.com, ROMINGER law.com. And we also have on the front of there, by the way, now on the front of Rominger Law, the most latest podcast will automatically appear there. So if you want to figure out how to listen to the show down the road, and you want to listen to or an archive, I think we have 110 of the old shows up now on the internet. So, yeah, quite a few. And if people want to go back and listen to them on demand, you can download them as an MP3 and put them on a podcast, or you can listen to them streaming. I've also got a series of segments where I just sort of talk about random things, and it's like a 1 or 2 minute chat. This new technology we're using, Spreaker, actually lets me use my cell phone to post short opinion pieces and rants and raves and observations, and I've been trying it out. So if you have some topics you'd like me to touch on, I'd love to. And the other thing we're working on, if you have a business, if you're a business person, we're looking for people who have small businesses. We're going to be doing a series of online chats where we interview you about your business and your history and how you got to where you are and what you do exactly. And it's going to be a little bit about your business and a little bit about you and a lot about human interest. You probably have to be regaled with one of my dumb stories while you do it. But nonetheless, the idea would be for us to learn more about you and also to give you a platform to tell people about your business. So if you're a small business person, get in contact with me, 1-800-734-2132, and we'll talk about how you can get on our business podcast. I know I've got about a dozen people lined up to do it, and it's pretty exciting. What we're going to do is send you a questionnaire, and that questionnaire will kind of be like the pre-interview to get the idea of, what I should be asking you about. Believe it or not, these interviews that I do a lot of times are cold. I just go in and talk to somebody. But for something like this, what we're looking for is some information so that I can kind of format it ahead of time and get things worked out into a logical sequence. A and B, hit the highlights and the important stuff. If you ever watch Oprah when she comes out, which of course I watch Oprah all the time, and but I have seen the show. When she comes out, she has like a little thing in her hand. And it's like a picture and like little key information. It's this really nifty little like tablet looking thing, and she interviews off of that. And I don't know if you ever noticed that or not, but pay attention the next time you watch the show, and you'll see her holding it. And somebody has pre-interviewed the people and determined all the things you need to know, so that by the time they get on the air and they're talking, it's all refined and drawn down and ready to go. Who have I got? Hey, Jim, how are you?
Hello. This is a land deed thing.
Okay.
I have acre ground, small rancher setting on it. I want to sell this property, but I have a small piece attached to the back that I have not had deeded into my name yet.
Okay.
Everything in this township has to go through a subdivision, whether it's a foot, a yard, or whatever. And it's run into a little bit of money. My question was, could I have a promissory note signed by the person I got it from to the new owner? If they have this deeded and so on, then it would be theirs, but they'd have to pay for the surveying and like that.
Yeah, you could do something like that. This piece of land you're talking about, is it deeded off already, or is it still attached to your land?
It's attached to my land. I just never had it deeded into my, on my deed.
Okay. So
it's coming off the back of a farm.
Okay. And how did they write a deed into anybody?
No, I have the deed to my 1 acre and my rancher, but this little piece I got is still attached to the farm.
Okay, so it's never actually been subdivided off.
No, that's the thing. Everything goes to a subdivision, and this has to be subdivided off. It's a very small piece, but
So it's going to be a minor subdivision, which is still a lot of hoops to jump through.
Right. Well, the township, it's very, I had a couple of different surveyors come up here, and I don't want to say too much.
Yeah, I understand.
They said if we knew you were in that township, they said we wouldn't even have come up here.
It's just a difficult one to work with.
Yep.
Yeah, we still have to do a minor subdivision, either that or if you sell the land, you'd have to get and the buyer wanted to do it, right? The buyer would have to go forward with that, and you could sign an option contract and all that sort of stuff. But it is probably wise to get it dealt with.
Yeah, well, the promissory note thing, see, what I was going to do is just sell the acre and the rancher, and the appraisal on that is what I was going to sell it for, and then say, look, if you want to have this deeded and you want to go through that
right.
piece will go to you.
Right, but you're going to have to do it. Now, the seller of the farm, are they still around?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So they're willing to transfer it to anybody.
Right.
All right, my friend. I've got 90 seconds left, so I'm going to let you go.
Okay, what would that cost real quick, well, as far as attorney?
Anywhere from about $200 to about $800, depending on how complicated it really is.
I see.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Karl.
All right. 1-800-734-2132. That'll get you any time if you want to call our office. If you call next week on the show, you'll be able to get on. If you want to get on Facebook with me and talk about Phil Robertson and Duck Dynasty, we got some good stuff going there. And don't forget to follow Larry Klayman's lawsuit against the NSA. That's going to be very interesting. And I guess Canada's legalizing prostitution, and Megan's Law is getting struck down, and gay marriage is getting legalized, and nobody knows where this country's headed, best I can tell. And I don't think either one is a right or wrong thing. It's just that we seem to be a society divided. I'll see you next week, guys.
Get Mr. Man something he'll really appreciate this year. Dave's Tractor World at 1787 West Trindle Road is your winter outdoor equipment sales and service center. He'd love a new Aaron snowblower or a Johnson Red chainsaw. Dave's has log splitters, power brushes, tillers, edgers, and vacuums. And Dave's can repair anything, even if you didn't buy it from Dave's Tractor World. They offer pickup and delivery.
From the L.B. Smith Ford Lincoln Studios, this is Country Gold FM, WIOO Carlisle, and WEEO Shipping.
From ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. 2 astronauts outside the International Space Station, the first of a series of spacewalks to make urgent repairs. A pump for the cooling system with a bad valve had to be replaced. Today's walk will be over 6 hours long. The 40 million Target shoppers who had their credit card information compromised due to a security breach sometime just before Black Friday may soon see the impact of the breach. Some of those numbers are for sale now to thieves.
ABC News has learned fake cards with credit card numbers stolen from Target's recent data breach are now flooding the black market. New York police sources telling ABC News the stolen card information is selling in batches of 1 million cards at a time.
ABC's Rena 9, and winter arrives later today, although the winter weather has been with us for much of the last few weeks. Here comes more. A massive storm will be hitting the eastern part of the country for the next 2 to 3 days. But Bruce Terry, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, says the worst will likely be over by Christmas.
The massive storm that will impact the eastern half of the country through Monday into early.
The most interesting attorney in the world. He speaks Latin in 7 other languages. His suits are made of 200% cotton, and his ties are of the finest silks. He will often take a jury trial because he enjoys conversing with others. The bar exam? It was written about his life. He is the most interesting attorney in the world.
I don't always discuss law, but when I do, it's at 8 a.m. on WIOO. Stay classy, my friend.